So if you kind of map the things that employees worry about and they actually take care of during office hours.
So the way we think about that question is there's two parts to the answer. One is what happens most frequently, and then what happens that has the greatest impact on people's lives. So a lot of traditional benefits are designed around the latter. What happens that has the greatest impact? So you hear about benefits around caregiving, disease management, and so on. Turns out in the data, those were not the things that were happening the most frequent, but when they did, they come with a major emotional toll on people. Surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, the things that come up over and over and over again are just the little like daily distractors. It's the, oh no, I woke up this morning and my washer won't drain. And now I need to find an HVAC person to repair the washing machine. Or 2 weeks from now, oh, like this morning, there's 6 inches of snow outside. Now there's a delayed opening at school. I need to figure out who's going to take my kids to school. Those little things happen all the time and lead to this sense of constant stress, constant distraction. And then you add on to it the big ones, the disasters, the illnesses, and people are under sort of constant assault.
Welcome to The Future of Less Work, the podcast where we're piecing together the puzzle of work's transformation, one question at a time. I'm Nirit Cohen, and today we're talking about something that affects all of us, stress. Employees today are juggling not just their jobs, but a wide range of personal responsibilities. Historically, employers tried to ease these burdens with benefits, mostly one-size-fits-all market-based offerings. But the world's changing around us. Are they really addressing what employees need? Joining me to explore this is Jon Cooper, CEO of Overalls, whose 2024 year-end review report provides new insight on what's really stressing today's workforce and maybe some ideas on what we should be doing about it. Jon, welcome to The Future of Less Work.
Well, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. Actually, let me start with a question I always ask. So, if the future of work is a puzzle, what's the parts you're helping solve?
So we're helping solve two things. One is an issue that's existed for a while and has gotten worse, which is stress. Everyone knows workers are stressed and burnt out. The second, though, we see as an emerging trend that I'm not sure people realize is happening yet, but we call it the age of disruption. We think from a big picture standpoint, our culture, our society, and our workforce has entered into a new era. We call the age of disruption, but the amount of macroeconomic factors, things like pandemics, wildfires, disasters, and then all of the micro distractions, your phone buzzing, the appointments, the work-life balance, work-life blend, has put us in a new stage where everyone is under constant assault from distractions and disruptions. That's the big picture that we're solving for the future. And we think AI is going to make that worse, not better.
Okay, great. So you're kind of answering also a question that I was wondering, right? I mean, how's this different, right? We always had stress and we always had lives outside of work. And I know that the pandemic blurred some of those boundaries. And once you saw people in their, PJs at home with their kids coming into the screen, you can't unsee that, right? And so those boundaries are blurred relative to what they used to be. But it really, if you think about that, right, we still care about medical and we still care. How's that different from what it used to be?
I don't know if it's different, but I think it's two things. One, it's gotten worse. And two, what we've seen is that traditional benefits have not adequately addressed the issue. And I'll just give one data point to point it out. So last 3 years, the US economy has experienced its greatest decline in productivity in something like 50 years. So you have to ask yourself, why is that? We have all of these tools, technology has advanced significantly, and yet our productivity at the national level has decreased. So our view is that while these issues have always existed, they've been amplified by the pandemic, by the just general macro state of the affairs. And then our traditional benefits that are often siloed have not allowed us to adequately address those issues.
Yeah, it's actually, I actually did see some data on your report that I thought was really interesting that the reason companies should care about this, right, is that employees are bringing these problems that they have. They're not solving them after work. They're actually bringing them into the office. I think I saw a data point that said that over 90% of the requests that you get for solutions, which you'll tell us a little bit more about later, actually happen during workday, right? Like 11 a.m. to 2 p.m.
You're 100% right. And if you just think about it, so many issues that pop up, there is no other option. You cannot call your pediatrician's office on a Sunday at 3 in the afternoon or when you get home from work at 10 o'clock at night because they're closed. A lot of life is designed around 9 to 5. So just from a sheer practical standpoint, you have to take time off of work to deal with those issues.
So what are they? So if you kind of map the things that employees worry about and they actually take care of during office hours.
Yeah. So the way we think about that question is there's two parts to the answer. One is what happens most frequently, and then what happens that has the greatest impact on people's lives. So a lot of traditional benefits are designed around the latter. What happens that has the greatest impact? So you hear about benefits around caregiving, disease management, and so on. Turns out in the data, those were not the things that were happening the most frequent, but when they did, they come with a major emotional toll on people. Surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, the things that come up over and over and over again are just the little like daily distractors. It's the, oh no, I woke up this morning and my washer won't drain. And now I need to find an HVAC person to repair the washing machine. Or 2 weeks from now, oh, like this morning, there's 6 inches of snow outside. Now there's a delayed opening at school. I need to figure out who's going to take my kids to school. Those little things happen all the time and lead to this sense of constant stress, constant distraction. And then you add on to it the big ones, the disasters, the illnesses, and people are under sort of constant assault.
It's interesting because for many years we did the market thing, right? We basically say, what's the market do in terms of benefits? And we kind of adjusted how we think about it. I think we forgot that the basic of benefits, and I'm, going above the basic social, layer, right? Social responsibility layer is making sure employees, we free them from the stuff that takes up their time so that they can focus on work, right? So when you think about that and you think about these small nagging disruptions, right, during the day, and the idea, because our listeners might be sitting there thinking, why do I care that their washing machine isn't working, right? And the answer is because now they're going to have to go buy a new one, and that's distracting, and that's taking them away from work.
Yeah, you're 100% right. So there's two reasons that companies care. One is because everyone's worried about burnout, everyone's worried about turnover, everyone's worried about stress. Some of the softer reasons is these are the things that lead to it. Most benefits address a small sliver of the workforce. And yet when you survey the workforce, you say who's stressed, 80% of the workforce say they're stressed. You've got a mismatch. You've got 80% who have a problem, and you've got benefits that target pockets of 10, 15% of the group, the caregiving.
Is that because of the one size fits all, or is that because we go address the big crisis things?
So we have a theory on both of those. We think one is problems are more complex than we give them credit to be. So I'll give you an example. We had an employee whose first request to us was very fun, very nice. She said, hey, my daughter, she's a single parent and a caregiver. We knew that through our platform. She said, my daughter's turning 15. Can you help us plan her quinceañera? And it was great. We helped her find balloons. We helped her order cupcakes, all that nice stuff. 2 weeks later, her next request to us was she says, my parents are both disabled on fixed income and they have a reverse mortgage. And we're now, I think it was like 3 months away before that reverse mortgage comes to its termination and they will lose their home. So can you help me look into options to keep them in place and to keep them aging in place? Now, the reason I point that out is because what traditional benefit would you use for that? Is that a financial wellness benefit? Is it a caregiving benefit? Do financial wellness benefits help you with your parents? Do caregiving benefits help you with reverse mortgages? It turns out most problems that we put into silos have domino effects that ripple across all these different areas. So what we see when we talk to people is I now find myself bouncing between 3 or 4 point solutions that my company offers, trying to find an answer, and it's causing more stress and more frustration versus having a broader, more comprehensive solution to just help you with life's twists and turns.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I read in your report, and I read it and I said, "Gosh, I know it to be true, but I never thought about it." Right? Most of these stress issues? They're not just this one thing that we would translate into this one benefit solution. It's a bunch of things, and sometimes probably I'm assuming the people talking about the thing that they're trying to solve, they don't even know how to turn that into a request around a specific benefit. They're basically describing a situation and need somebody to do the translation for them.
You're 100% right. We actually, this is getting into the weeds, but we'll ask people, what type of problem is this? Is this a financial issue? Is this a pet issue? Is this a caregiving issue? And we find that like 25% of the time it's miscategorized because these problems are so multifaceted that, turns out that was an insurance problem, not a pet problem or a healthcare problem or a dental problem. But problems are more complex than our traditional benefits really are designed to address, in our opinion.
And they're probably also very different for different, I don't know if we can still say employee categories, or is it really, I'm assuming it's not all the way back to the individual. You can probably identify categories, right?
You can, and it's been interesting. So one of the main benefits we see about overalls is because it's designed to be broad. So, we really like to position it as your one place to go if you have a problem. And as long as it's not illegal or unethical, we will try to resolve that problem for you. So it's a very simple value prop. But because it's designed that way, it really is an inclusive benefit. We'll see new hires come to us asking for help finding their first apartment and reviewing a lease and getting renter's insurance. We'll see people like us in the sandwich generation where they've got kids' activities, parents' activities, healthcare issues that we're helping them manage. And then we'll see folks who are later in their career looking for help downsizing, planning their retirement, finding a financial advisor. But as a result, you really can engage the broadest swath of your workforce.
So how do you do that? I'm thinking, it's been a while since I did C&B, and I did for a really long time. Actually, maybe it's a good time to ask our listeners. I'm thinking, that usually we think about these things in boardrooms, right, or in leadership groups. And I found I was company leader at Intel for many years, and I found that if you ask people what they need, right, they'll tell you. Only they don't necessarily know how to speak it in terms of a benefit. And so I'd really love this opportunity to ask our listeners, right? If there was this one thing that your employer could offer that would truly make a difference in your work and your life, right? What would it be? I'm thinking something so valuable that it would actually make you rethink leaving your job because you wouldn't want to give it up. Drop your answer here in the comments, or, put it on social media. Don't forget to hashtag the future of less work. And I think I can say for both of us, if you'll share, we'll personally respond with thoughts, ideas, maybe resources that might help you get there. What do you think, Jon?
I'm excited to see what people say. What we saw from our data last year is that the theme is that there is no theme. And what I mean by that is that so many people have such a wide set of needs that it spans and ends up being far broader than we would ever guess. It's not going to all fall into one pocket.
So in the old days when I was working CMB, that was inconceivable, right? I mean, I can't imagine. The most we could think about was some sort of concierge service, right? But those were usually limited. What is it that makes you, makes it possible for you to deal with benefits all the way down to, like you say, the individual asking for something that an organization can't do?
I'll answer that with a quick story. When we started this business, it all was inspired off of two random events happening. Within a few days, the co-founder that I started the business with, he had his car store. And 2 days later, I had my basement flood. And we were on a Zoom and we were supposed to go through our to-do list of all the things we got done that week. And neither of us had gotten anything done. We, police reports in his case, meeting with insurance adjusters. I was trying to find mold remediation experts and all this stuff. to just deal with these life situations that had bubbled up. And we had that was the aha moment for overall. It's like, why isn't there a benefit to help people deal with the everyday struggles that happen every day? And our biggest reservation and hesitation is, will we be able to handle such a broad set of problems? And what we found, so I'll tell you about how we do that, but I'll tell you what we found. So what we found is that the reality is, because these problems are so multifaceted, that having breadth was not a weakness, but it was actually an advantage. Like the example I gave with the woman who is a caregiver, having the breadth to not just be siloed as a financial wellness solution or as a caregiving solution, but to have the ability to address both of those ended up being a true advantage. So the way we do that is we like to say real people solving real problems. We have a team of people all based in the United States that wear one of two hats. One team we call our life concierges, and they're generalists. Think of them as if you had an executive assistant who helps you with scheduling appointments, doing research, and so on. In addition to that, we have a team that we call our life experts. And these are people who have backgrounds as accountants, nurse practitioners, attorneys, CPAs, claims adjusters, general contractors, and so on. So if you have a trickier issue that requires more specialization, we'll pull in one of our life experts and they'll help guide you and assist you. So you get both the breadth when you need it and the depth when you need it as well to navigate these life challenges.
So, what about everything that happens in the background? So, for example, don't you need solutions that, I don't know, contracts, the kinds of services that, does that depend on what the company has, or is that everything you offer?
So the way to think about it is really a set of hands to help you. So let's just say you need help let's say you need help dealing with a denied insurance claim or getting a prior authorization. Overalls will work on your behalf with the insurance companies, with the
Yeah.
provider, so on. We might look into, if you need help finding an electrician, we'll look into the electricians. It's not like we have a network or the company has a network, but we're just doing that busy work on your behalf.
So it's like this extension of it's almost like we go back to the days where you had an admin, but they do your life's work, if you will.
Exactly. And what we found, it was interesting. We did a study when we first launched the business with about 1,500 employees across different industries, different segments. And we measured how much time, we had to measure literally hour by hour, how much time at work they were spending dealing with non-work issues. And this gets back at the point you made, which is 90% of this happens during office hours. The answer was 6.5 hours a week on average where people were dealing with non-work issues. So that's like 17% of a typical 9 to 5 job that is spent dealing with these sorts of issues.
Which is the justification. So you're telling a company, this is a good idea to help offload the stuff that happens in employees' life that they would have taken care of during office hours, or their mind would have been busy with it. And you get, an employee who's happy not to deal with this stuff and then free to do the work.
Exactly. 100%. It's your employees will love it because we make their lives easier. And your finance team will love it because we're freeing up productive time that flows back to the business.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting. So can you identify big buckets that weren't there in the past? So if we think about, how benefits were structured, and I get that you're now tailoring them and personalizing them and providing them in a little less, old bucket kind of, but what are the essence of what usually people want to offload into this space?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I think about the categories, there's probably 7 or 8 of them. And maybe 6 of those fall into traditional buckets. There's, support with your medical plans and your health plans. There's financial wellness, financial support. What's new and different, one is the ability to span across of those. But 2 is this whole other bucket that we call life admin. And that's the little stuff that just takes up a lot of time. It's, every month when I go on the New Jersey Turnpike and I go through an Easy Pass thing and they send me an invoice in the mail, even though I have the transponder, it's, sitting on hold with Easy Pass and dealing with that. It's calling Citibank because there's a weird charge on your credit card. It's
Wow.
researching.
I'm calling Citibank on behalf of the employee because they want to understand something.
Exactly.
That's
And when
included.
that employee calls, they're sitting on hold for an hour. They're hitting, going through a phone tree and getting bounced around. And it's frustrating for them and it's taking up a lot of time.
Yeah, no, I have to say that one of the reasons I asked to talk to you today. I actually have a personal story here. I was working in Santa Clara, in fact, and I had a wonderful manager. And she saw me one day really stressed about something. She asked me what was going on. And I had a family situation where I was left alone with my kids, and I didn't have the support I usually had. And she actually asked me that question that I kind of asked our listeners. Right? I said, well, how can I help? Right. And this is many years ago. So it was very hard for me to think about that. But I basically said, I'm working all day, take care of my kids, I have to clean the house, have to do the shopping. I can't, I can't. That was kind of where I was. And she said, well, I'm going to give you cleaning services. And you let me know when she actually didn't even she didn't even tell me when you no longer need them. She basically said, gonna give you clean. And this was like completely not a benefit, right? It was in fact financed the first month I filed it on expense report, escalated it really quickly, right? So I remember that for many years. And I write on Forbes these days, and I actually wrote an article that talked about this idea that she solved a problem for me that I would never have been able to ask for, which was a lot better than giving me, breakfast for two, because it wasn't what I needed, right?
Yeah. And I think you bring up a few really good points, which is, one, you had to have the right manager with the right mindset to get that help. And not every manager thinks that way. And even if they do, that's time that they're spending doing that. The second thing is some companies, like we'll go in there and we'll see they have a beautiful long list of benefits. Baby cleaning service is one of them. But an employee needs to have the knowledge, the wherewithal to understand what those are, to go there, especially at a time of crisis. When do is my first thought, like, let me go consult that internal website and see what benefits I have to address that. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many good benefits go underutilized is because when people need it, they don't remember that they have access to it or really understand what it is. So both of those reasons we think is part of the value proposition of a solution like Overalls is the ability to address exactly what the person needs at that time. And two, you just get habituated to, I know if I have a problem, the everything store. I know if I have a problem, I'll hit the easy button. I'll go see if Overalls can help me do it.
So fast forward 5 years. What do you think the most significant changes are going to be in employee benefits?
Great question. So we think from a macro trend perspective, there's been this period where it used to be, as you said, benefits were sort of one size fits all. And then we've seen much more specialization, which has its benefits, but it also has its issues. The issues being that people now have to realize where to go. And then when problems are multifaceted, how do you deal with that? Do you use 2 or 3 specialized benefits? So one thing we think is we're going to start to see more consolidation, and that's going to come in one of 2 flavors. One is sort of what we're doing, which is a broader solution. But the second is you're starting to see companies like a Beanstalk Benefits or Fringe Benefits where they're taking a lot of these disparate solutions and bringing it under one roof. So it's easier for an employee to find them. It's easier for a company to budget for it. They say, I don't need to budget for 12-point solutions. I just put it a Fringe and my employees can select.
So
So
you're
I think
almost
that's,
saying the providers will do what you're doing. They'll go start consolidating.
yeah. Or, the way I think about these companies, I think they call them like lifestyle spending accounts and so on, but it's almost
Yeah.
putting in the decision instead of a pension plan, we're going to put the decision at the employee's level. They can go into the marketplace. Here's some money. Go pick the benefit you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Although I hope they don't do that with pension planning, because we need people to plan for retirement. Okay. All right. So cool. I really love that. Really, I do. Like I said, my CB background's showing. So Jon, I always end with this question, right? I think the future of work is really evolving, and a lot of what we should be thinking about are questions and not answers. So what's the one question you think we should all be asking ourselves these days about the future of work?
That's a great question. Something we think a lot about, everyone's talking about it, is what will the impact of AI be? And we tend to have a slightly, what is it, less techno optimistic future belief around how AI will impact the workforce. We actually think that's going to lead to a large amount of disruption, where we're going to see both disruption in the form of companies will be restructuring significantly. The people who are left will having to do a lot of reskilling, fewer people doing more stuff. And then the day-to-day stuff that we're accustomed to doing, when you are lucky enough to actually talk to a human after you've hit like 5 buttons on your phone, now you're not even going to talk to a human. You're going to talk to yet another technology intervention before you can get true resolution. So one is really thinking critically around how will AI impact our workforce and the benefits we need to offer and the amount of support we need to provide our employees.
Okay, that's it's a good one. I had a really interesting conversation that's not up yet on well, by the time yours is up, it's going to be up as well. But about this idea that we are shifting to this innovation era, right, where actually human skills are going to become the center because a lot of the other stuff gets outsourced to technology, and maybe we have time to actually go work on some of the things that are really important as opposed to the grudge work. So maybe we solve for, some of that interaction. Wow. Thank you, Jon, for joining me today. Your insights to kind of how we have to evolve, employee benefits and think about this as part of the stress related aspect or de-stressing aspect of our roles is a really valuable piece of the puzzle. For more about Jon Cooper and Overalls, check out the links in the podcast description. Visit getoveralls.com. And I'm also going to put a link to the Overalls 2024 year in review report. Thanks for joining us on The Future of Less Work, where we're piecing together the ever-changing puzzle of work one question at a time. And remember, the new social contract is a win-win between people and organizations. Your best people don't work because they have to, or because you tell them to, or even because you measure them on it. They work because they want to, because by working for you is their way of achieving their purpose in life. Till next time.